I'm going to be honest with you. We delude ourselves quite a lot when we're using drugs or alcohol, which is also a drug. And it is difficult to decouple ourselves from all of the narratives that we weave, the stories that we tell, in order to justify that short term relief that we get from using that substance. But the truth is, usually a lot more complicated than whatever narrative we're weaving to justify our actions. And when we're looking inwardly at ourselves in the midst of all of this pleasure, it is very difficult to see the truth. It's already very difficult to see the truth on our own. We need other people's help to take a second look at what we're doing and call us out. Even if they're wrong, just the fact that they called us out will lead us to reconsider what we're doing, or at least they'll have some observation that'll end up being useful. And so none of this is to say that certain people can't have a healthy relationship with any substance. Literally any one of them you are capable of using in moderation, and perhaps even using to enhance your life, modify your life in a fashion that doesn't constitute misuse. But there are many externalities to drugs and alcohol, especially with the greater frequency of use. And I also think with certain people, like, certain people just have a lot harder of a time doing any moderation at all, or if they can, it's very little. And the more you use a thing, the more problems you're going to see with it, more externalities of having it in your body. And in my case, with alcohol, I'm happy to say that I stopped drinking over 5 months ago now, something like that. It was in summer. I'm happy to say that I stopped drinking then. But on reflection, now that it's been a while since I was drinking, I've realized how much anxiety drinking was actually giving me. This light is like blaring in my eyes, holy shit. I realized how much anxiety drinking was actually giving me. Because not only would my sleep be worsened by having drank the night before or midday before, it also put me in this sort of state where the one thing I would think about going home to and wanting to do was drink. It's not like I was thinking about it all day, but by the end of the day, I was done with work and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home and drink. But the whole time that I was at work, I couldn't really think clearly because I hadn't slept very well, and because I hadn't slept very well, I had more anxiety. And it made it harder for me to think clearly. And alcohol, if you look at what it actually is, it is literally a poison. I don't get most of the effects of hangovers, but the reason why people in general get a hangover is because alcohol had poisoned you the night prior. And your body is recovering from the effects of having been poisoned. And so, this is theoretical. There's hair in my mouth. This is theoretical. But I do believe that alcohol was giving me anxiety, because months after I had stopped drinking, and I also stopped having caffeine in the morning, or almost at all, I'll reward myself after work with a type of soda that has a very low caffeine content, and I'll play a handheld game, and that's kind of my reward after I do a good job at work. But I don't have anything with high caffeine content, and I definitely don't have it in the morning. And I also don't have it every day, because that increases my anxiety like a lot. I become very apprehensive around people, much more prone to negativity as well, much more irritable, prone to anger. And alcohol had a similar effect on me even when I was not drinking it. Like, I would drink it, and the more consistently I would do so, it's like it would corrode the world around me. Like, it wasn't just like I would have less inhibitions when I was drinking, it was like I could fly off the handle much more easily. It was this corroding force in my life. It, it, something about it made me just feel worse overall, and then I ended up behaving more impulsively. But for the longer that I haven't been drinking, it seems like the less impulsive I've become. Not to say I was particularly impulsive before. I was pretty with it at the time. You know, I was just drinking at the end of the day to battle with my PTSD, which is never a good idea. You shouldn't try to self-medicate. Not to say that certain experiments with some people haven't had good results. It's generally not a good idea. And so, but I was self-medicating, and it was actually making the problem worse. It was making me more anxious because I would wake up the next day feeling worse overall, having had worse sleep, and I would come in apprehensive and not really able to think clearly. But I've been able to think so much more clearly since getting rid of that stuff. You know, it's like I do things that are required of me, and I can do them in a precise way. I can see it right in front of me and just go. There's no haze blocking my eyesight. But that's what it was like before. Like, I would be at work, and there would be a basic task that I would have to do, and it would take me like 5 or 10 extra seconds because I was more anxious, and also because it was harder for me to think clearly. It was like I had this consistent brain fog that was making my shit all fucked up. But now I don't have that anymore, and I seem to be a lot happier of a person. Like, since getting rid of that stuff, it seems like partially because the anxiety isn't there, and partially because I think clearly, partially because of other stuff as well. Now, the other stuff I won't get into in this video, changes in my mindset and my environment, and some other things. I'll have those topics covered in other videos, but getting rid of that alcohol, 6 months ago, whatever it was now, that was a great decision, because the more the months have gone by, the more I've been able to kind of be with it. Now, that isn't to say that there haven't been, I'm trying to count now, maybe 3 or 4 times in total where I've drank since then. Might be 5 actually. I got one hand. I know it's counted on one hand, where I drank in a single day. So those are 5 singular days. But I need to check my records on this. I don't have them in front of me. But I haven't broken the streak of none multiple times a week, none multiple times a month. You know, like once a month is okay. If you have one beer or two beers once a month, that's okay. At least for me. You know, I'm a small guy. I get effects from one beer that has 4.5% alcohol in it. 4.5%, one. I start getting effects just from that. Like, I have one of those, I'm good, you know? And if I have one of those in a single month, like, I'm good. You know, I don't want any more because my sleep will be fucked up that night, and I'll wake up the next day and I'll be like, you know, I wish I got better sleep. And it doesn't have these like cascading, wide ranging effects that drinking consistently has on me, you know, where like it feels like my world is kind of being corroded because I'm thinking less clearly, I'm less with it, I'm less intuitively there. I'm more anxious. That type of stuff doesn't happen from just one beer in a month. But the next day, like I'm sort of, you know, I can notice my sleep wasn't as good as normal, but like I'm fine. But the moment that it starts becoming consecutive, the moment that it starts becoming consistent, is when a really bad process starts to happen. And the months go by, and then it's like my world is being corroded. There's this corrosion all over my world. And I'm thinking less clearly, and I'm more impulsive, and I'm stupider, to be frank, stupider, less articulate, and I'm slower. And I don't like that. I mean, nobody likes being like that. Maybe some people do. I'm not here to judge, but I don't like that. And it's been a major improvement to my life to make that change, to make that modification. I know for some people, no, everybody's demons are different. The things that everybody is battling is different. So I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, it should be so easy for you. It should be this, it should be that. You know, if you're having a really hard time, but you're trying to make a change, you should be commended for that. And even if you only change a little bit, I think that should be rewarded and incentivized. And there should be people there to, you know, keep you from falling off that wagon. But in my case, and again, I'm I'm not trying to brag here. I didn't really have much trouble stopping because to me the writing was on the wall. The writing was on the wall. This is making me feel worse. Why would I do this to myself? I'm not trying to self-harm. And maybe that is a struggle that certain people deal with. Maybe part of their struggle is still being stuck in that short-term mindset, and there's a set of habits that come with that are really hard to break. But I just didn't want to feel bad. And so not wanting to feel bad and also not wanting to impulsively say something I shouldn't to people I love, not wanting to be anxious, these things were all big motivators for me to make a change in my behavior, and then I just did it. And there you go. And I've done this with so many different things. Like, there comes a point when I just notice this is not helping, this is hurting, and then I just make a change. And so I have my little soda every now and again now, but it's only as a reward. You know, it's like an incentive. If I work hard enough that day, if I do a good job, I go to a convenience store and get my little soda. But it's not every day too. It's like I have my incentives set up in a way where it's not like I can reward myself with that every single time. But again, it's a low caffeine soda. It's not alcohol. That's a good strategy, by the way. If you're trying to quit drinking, um, get yourself out of situations and environments that remind you of drinking. Remove the incentives to drink, and try to replace the drinks that you were drinking before with non-alcoholic beverages that you can kind of like trick yourself into thinking are alcohol. That's a good idea. And the same thing can be done with caffeine too. It's like if you like these really highly caffeinated beverages and they're causing a problem for you, you can just drink ginger ale. Ginger ale has no caffeine, but it's got some sugar in there. And sugar is not great either, but it's better than being caffeinated and kind of messing with your sleep cycle and other problems that caffeine has. Just drink ginger ale all the time and you get the fizz and the bubbles there, and you can kind of trick yourself into thinking that it's caffeine. I guess that's what decaf coffee is for too, besides the fact that people just like how it tastes. That's what non-alcoholic beer is for as well. That's why they have it. Um, so a lot of what quitting is about is removing yourself from environments that you associate with drinking, keeping yourself away from the triggers. This is at the early part. And then after all that's over, it's like you don't even need to worry about it. I can be around people who are drinking and I just don't drink. On the last day that my wife was here, I went out to the store to go get her beer because she wanted to celebrate her last day with me. I didn't drink any. I had 4 of them left, and they sat in the fridge for like almost a week, and then I just gave them to my dad. I didn't drink any of them. I didn't drink with her. I don't have these sorts of triggers, so I almost feel bad in a way for explaining how I work like this, because I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anyone. I know that this stuff is really complicated and everyone has different personal demons that they're dealing with. And I'm not attempting to be self-aggrandizing and say like my particular journey is better than yours, or that I'm more with it than you on some natural level or something. No, it's like it's different for everybody. But me personally, as someone who's been on and off with this stuff, I don't find quitting difficult. And again, I have some apprehension about saying that because I know it is really difficult for some people, and it's like if they heard that, they'd probably think, "Oh, you fucking asshole! Like fuck you." And it's like, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to tell my story. I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. It's different depending on the person because everyone has their own demons that they're fighting. The context is different. And in my case, if you name anything, just anything, name it, I've been able to quit it because I looked at the writing on the wall and I could see like, this isn't really helping. This is kind of making things worse. And then it's just gone. The moment you realize that, it's just gone for me. But for as much as I had realized that alcohol was causing problems for me in terms of sleep and general mood, like depression type stuff, and also like giving me anger issues when I wasn't drinking, it was making me more likely to be prone to anger when I wasn't drinking. Which this is common with people who regularly drink, actually. I don't know the neurological underpinnings as to why this happens, I don't know. I'm sure there's research on it, academic research. I haven't looked at it. But for whatever reason, and in my experience, many other people just seem to be more impulsive, more prone to anger, or fly off the handle more when they're drinking regularly. Even when they're not drinking, they're like that. It just like corrodes their life in that way. Now, I was with it on all that. I was keen to those facts, and I I was able to see all of that, but it wasn't until fairly recently that I came to understand, when reflecting on some of the jobs I used to have and some of the days that I used to have, that it was also giving me anxiety. And I know part of that is because it fucks up your REM sleep or whatever, and that will make you more irritable. But I think it was making me more anxious for other reasons as well. And now that it's gone, and a lot of, well, not a lot, but a good bit of time has passed, I can see that on reflection. As for the other things that have improved my anxiety, well, that'll be a topic for a future video.